The Insta360 Ace Pro 2 and the GoPro Hero 13 Black are two of the most advanced action cameras you can buy right now. In this video, I'm putting them head to head, comparing their design and handling and testing their video quality in both bright and low light conditions, battery life, microphone performance and all the other features that can make a real difference when you're out filming. By the end, hopefully you'll have a clear idea of which one's right for you. So let's take a closer look. The Hero 13 Black is a little smaller and lighter than the Ace Pro 2. It weighs 158 grams, including its battery and SD card. Its design has barely changed in recent years. It has a 2.27-inch rear touchscreen and a 1.4-inch non-touch front screen to film yourself. The Ace Pro 2 weighs 180 grams, again with battery and SD card, and has a larger 2.5-inch rear touchscreen, and this screen can flip vertically, so you can use this whole screen to film yourself, which is great for vlogging. There's also a small non-touch front LCD screen, but this just shows settings. Both cameras are waterproof without any additional accessories. The GoPro to 10 meters and the Ace Pro 2 to 12 meters. Both cameras have removable lens covers. This is an upgrade for the Ace Pro 2. You couldn't remove the lens cover on the original Ace Pro. Neither camera has any built-in storage, and unless you purchase a bundle, you'll need to purchase a microSD card separately. The build quality on both cameras is excellent, which you'd expect. The flip-out screen on the Ace Pro 2 locks shut and even opened feels robust, but I'd keep it closed for more extreme sports. The Ace Pro 2 has a 1/1.3-inch 8K sensor and an f2.6 Leica lens. It also has a dedicated so-called dual AI chip for advanced image processing. The Hero 13 Black has a smaller 1/1.9-inch sensor with an f2.5 lens. It's still using the same GP2 processor introduced on the Hero 10. I much prefer the screen on the Ace Pro 2. It's far more responsive. I often have to tap the GoPro screen a few times. For all my test footage, I've ensured the bitrate on both cameras is set to high. The GoPro has a 10-bit colour option, which I've also enabled. This allows more flexibility for colour grading, especially if you choose a flat GP log colour profile, so long as you don't mind the extra post-processing. It's not really something I'd recommend for most users. Insta360 do have their iLog flat profile, but with only 8-bit colour, you won't have as much latitude adjusting colours and exposure. Both cameras have excellent image stabilisation. GoPro with their hyper-smooth and Insta360 with their flow state. It's hard to tell them apart. They both look super smooth in bright conditions. In fact, in bright conditions, both cameras do an excellent job for action sports, like mountain biking, strapped to a chest mount. The GoPro does have an advantage when it comes to mounting though. I love its integrated standard 1/4-inch tripod mount and folding GoPro fingers. The Ace Pro 2 has to be used with the included rather bulky magnetic mount, which only has fixed GoPro fingers. It doesn't have a standard tripod mount, which is odd considering Insta360's 360-degree cameras all only have the 1/4-inch mount. The magnetic mount can be handy though. It's convenient being able to quickly unclip the camera to adjust settings or review your footage. Insta360 does have a much more useful mount, which has foldable fingers and a 1/4-inch tripod mount, but it's an optional extra. And GoPro has an optional magnetic mount, which is even better. It's the only magnetic mount I've seen for any action camera that can be used either way around. For general use, I prefer the Ace Pro 2 with its flip-out screen. Not just for selfies, where it excels, but for low-angle shots or tripod mounted, it's very convenient being able to adjust the tilt of the screen as needed. I also found the screen easier to view in bright conditions compared to the GoPro. The GoPro does have the front LCD screen, but it's small and you can't interact with it like you can on the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro. It is an extra step to flip up the screen for quick selfies, so I would love the next version of the Ace Pro 2 to also have a similar front touchscreen, rather than the LCD status screen that I really don't find that useful. The footage so far has been 4K, but the Ace Pro 2 has an 8K mode and the GoPro has a 5.3K mode. The Ace Pro 2 is limited to 30 frames per second in 8K, so this mode is not intended for action sports. More usefully, you can double tap the screen in 4K mode to zoom in 2 times on your footage, even whilst you're filming. And this works up to 4K 60 frames per second. Insta360 calls this clarity zoom. This is not your typical digital zoom. It takes advantage of the huge 8K sensor and crops in on your recording. The quality is better than a digital zoom, you need bright conditions for the best results. The GoPro doesn't have a similar cropping zoom, but you can film up to 60 frames per second in 5.3K, and there's an 8:7 aspect ratio that effectively captures the whole sensor. This gives you a lot more flexibility in post for zooming in slightly and switching the aspect ratio between landscape and portrait. There is a similar option on the Ace Pro 2, their free frame mode, which also captures the whole sensor, but unfortunately not at 8K, only 4K. And you'll need to process the footage in the smartphone or desktop app to not only choose your final aspect ratio, but also to apply the flow state image stabilisation. I'm pleased to see both cameras have decent USB 3.0 transfer speeds. If you capture a lot of footage, this is a big deal. In my test, the GoPro was a little quicker at 84 megabytes per second compared to 73 megabytes per second for the Ace Pro 2. I very rarely use photo modes on action cameras. The Ace Pro 2 can capture up to 50 megapixels. The GoPro is limited to 27 megapixels. Although zooming into 100%, I really don't see much more detail on the 50 megapixel photo. In good light, I'm fairly sure most people will be happy with the footage from either camera. But in low light, the GoPro with its smaller sensor and few generation old processor falls way behind. The Ace Pro 2 has a dedicated low light mode called Pure Video. The camera even prompts you to switch across to this mode when light levels drop. GoPro still doesn't have a dedicated low light mode, and footage very quickly becomes unusable at lower light levels. In lower light, the footage off the Ace Pro 2 can still look a little over-processed, but is good enough for social media in most cases. It does struggle if there's any movement, like the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro. The low light levels force a lower shutter speed, and this results in quite severe motion blur if there's not enough light and you move too quickly. Both cameras have removable batteries. The Ace Pro 2 has a new 1800 mAh battery, but the 1650 mAh batteries from the Ace Pro still fit. The GoPro Hero 13 use their new 1900 mAh endurance batteries, and batteries from previous GoPros won't fit, which is frustrating if you're upgrading. The Ace Pro 2 has a new endurance mode, which limits the resolution to 4K 30 frames per second, but provides up to 180 minutes of battery life. But Insta360 doesn't mention battery life in standard 4K modes. And GoPro doesn't mention battery life in 4K at all, only at 1080p. I did my own test at 4K 50 frames per second, the mode I imagine most people will choose for general use in action sports. I did switch the bitrate on both cameras to standard just for this test, which should provide slightly longer battery life. The Ace Pro 2 ran for 84 minutes before running down the battery completely. The GoPro only ran for 55 minutes before shutting off with an overheating message, which is disappointing. This is something that has plagued GoPros for years. This was indoors with no airflow. You'll get better results outdoors doing any kind of action sport. The Ace Pro 2 supports fast charging via power delivery, and you can charge an empty battery to 80% in just 18 minutes, with a full charge taking 47 minutes according to Insta360. I again did my own tests and I was able to charge the battery to 80% capacity in just over 20 minutes. It starts off charging at almost 28 watts. A full charge took a little longer at 62 minutes, but it's still very impressive. GoPro doesn't advertise fast charging for the Hero 13 Black and suggests it'll take 2 to 3 hours for a full charge. I used the fast charger and the included GoPro cable, and it took just over 2 hours for a full charge and took just over an hour to get to 80%, only reaching speeds of less than 9 watts, which is very slow by modern standards. The Ace Pro 2 also supports reverse charging. If I plug in my iPhone 15 Pro Max, for example, I can choose to either charge off my iPhone, selecting the charge option using the iPhone's reverse charging capability, or I can choose reverse charging to charge off the Ace Pro 2. I wasn't expecting it to work with my iPhone, but it does. I got almost 6 watts, roughly equivalent to the original wall plugs that came with the early iPhones. It's not going to charge your phone very quickly, but could be useful in an emergency. For me, it could also be useful on longer bike rides to charge my Garmin head unit and rear light and my electric pump. 5 watts is plenty for them. Both cameras have 3 microphones. The Insta360 has a wind guard over the front microphone, which is removable. There's some foam inside, so you should swap this out with the included mic cap if you're using the camera underwater. Both cameras have a wind reduction mode and a stereo mode. Both cameras also have a voice enhancement mode. You can hear how the built-in microphones sound in the various modes. This is a microphone test with wind reduction off on the GoPro, so it's in stereo mode, and voice enhancement mode on the Insta360 Ace Pro 2. This is a microphone test with wind reduction off on the GoPro, so it's in stereo mode, and voice enhancement mode on the Insta360 Ace Pro 2. This is a microphone test with wind reduction on both the Insta360 Ace Pro 2 and the GoPro Hero 13 Black. This is a microphone test with wind reduction on both the Insta360 Ace Pro 2 and the GoPro Hero 13 Black. Both cameras support connecting external microphones like this DJI Mic 2 or your AirPods Pro, and you'll get an audio levels indicator, which is useful. Only the Ace Pro 2 lets you adjust audio gain on the camera though. And the Ace Pro 2 has a few more tricks up its sleeve. First off, when you connect a Bluetooth mic, it lets you also enable the built-in camera mics for dual track audio. You can then edit both tracks separately in post. You could use a built-in mic for backup audio in case a Bluetooth mic has interference. Or you could set the built-in mics to stereo mode to capture ambient sounds close to the camera. Additionally, their latest firmware also lets you pair a few external mics via USB-C without having to use their USB microphone adapter together with a 3.5mm audio jack. The receiver is just plugged directly into the USB-C port. You'll need to remove the cover first by opening it fully and then pulling it off. I tried it with the new DJI Mic Mini and the Hollyland Lark M2. Not only is the quality better over a wire connection, you can also use two mics simultaneously. The only way to directly wire an external mic on the GoPro is via their optional media mod, which is expensive and the whole setup is bulky and cumbersome. The Ace Pro 2 can record slow motion at up to 4K 120 frames per second, both in standard video mode and in the dedicated slow motion mode. The dedicated mode records no audio but slows the video down in camera. I'm happy to do this in post, so I rarely use the slow motion mode. The Hero 13 Black can also record at 4K 120 frames per second, although you'll need to switch your camera to NTSC if you're not in the US. I don't know why GoPro can't just show you all the modes without switching regions. You're going to use slow motion outside most of the time, so light flicker won't be an issue. Something you don't get on the Ace Pro 2 though is a very useful 240 frames per second 2.7K mode. GoPro also has a burst slow-mo mode which lets you shoot up to 400 frames per second but only at very low 720p resolution and only in bursts of 5 to 15 seconds depending on the resolution you choose. If you're picking up one of these cameras for action sports and using them in bright conditions, I think you'd be more than happy with either camera. The image quality and image stabilisation is excellent on both cameras. Even if you do prefer the colours of one camera over the other, you can tweak both cameras to your tastes. You don't have the flip screen on the GoPro, but both cameras have a very capable accompanying smartphone app that you can use to frame your shots if the camera is mounted on your chest or anywhere else. The Hero 13 Black does have a few advanced add-ons for the serious enthusiast or professional user. The HB series lenses and ND filters aren't cheap, but are automatically detected by the camera, which is useful, especially when it comes to ND filters, which can easily mess up your footage if you don't know what you're doing. GoPro also has their GoPro Premium service, which amongst other features allows unlimited backup of your GoPro footage, which is fantastic. Insta360 did recently introduce their Insta360 Plus cloud service, but it's more expensive and for comparatively limited storage. And currently it only supports their 360-degree cameras, but I'm sure that'll change. If you want more of an all-round camera, the Ace Pro 2 might be a better option. It's far better in low light, and the flip screen is super useful for selfies, low-angle shots and framing on a tripod. The touch interface is also so much more responsive than on the GoPro. It's also brimming with features including the microphone options I've discussed, some genuinely useful shooting modes like the new dashcam mode, gesture control, and their smartphone app is more capable than GoPro's, with some impressive AI features that I've covered in previous videos I'll link to below. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Is there anything I've missed? Which camera do you prefer? I've also been testing the Osmo Action 5 Pro, which is another very compelling option. Let me know if you want me to do a similar DJI versus GoPro or DJI versus Insta360 video. And as always, if you have any questions, please ask. I read every comment and will do my best to respond. If you found this video comparison useful, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps me out. And if you're into the latest detailed and unbiased tech reviews, please make sure you subscribe and tap the bell. I post new videos every week and there's plenty more coming soon, including a full review of Insta360's latest 360-degree camera, the X5. Also, please consider using my links down below. I get a tiny kickback that really helps support the channel and at no extra cost to you. Thanks for watching.